Good morning, Michael. How are you this morning?
Great. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm feeling a little chilly. It got foggy again here, which is pretty common in Santa Cruz. Like the cold, foggy mornings, even if it gets into the 70s during the day. So I'm definitely a little chilly. How
Yeah,
about
we
you? Is it a nice morning where you are?
finally got a little bit of seasons in here in Texas too, and let me tell you, it's very welcomed for this West Coast boy because those high 90 temperatures and the humidity are not. I'll take the fog. I'll take the inland fog any day over it. So it's nice that it's
Let's
starting to get
let's
cool again.
switch. I want the heat right now. How about you have the fog and I'll have the heat? We need to like switch a little bit, I think.
We can do one of those home swaps,
Let's do it, please.
but
I
you got
like
to take
your
but you got
owl
to take care
thinking
of the
too.
puppy.
What? Oh, okay.
But you got to take care of the puppy if you come
Okay.
out.
I have a couple of puppies of my own, although
Oh, well,
the
hey, now
human
we got something to
kind.
really talk about.
Yeah. All right. Well, I really want to talk a bit about this weekend coming up. It's actually a handful of days that you're going to be here with us. And I wanted to get a bit more into what because I already can feel the energy building towards it. I could really feel it. And I already have a certain sense of it myself. And I want to speak more with you about it, like what I'm starting to feel into, and ask a few more questions about that. And I think one of the things I've been really aware of is when we were speaking before, you said something like I never do this. Like I just don't do this. Like this type of engagement, this type of thing that we're putting together. And I've been really kind of hit in a sense of how cool, like how special, how interesting and unique this time together will be. And kind of feeling impacted by like the profoundness of that. So I just wanted to say, like, thank you for being willing and also check in with you. Like, what does that bring up for you? The fact that this is kind of new and different, or you just don't usually do this kind of thing?
Well, I mean, when you're young in your craft or your offering, you're traveling all over the place and just kind of, you're booking dates whenever you can and getting out and sharing and learning. And we're 20 years deep in this now, and most of our content has moved to online, evergreen. I mean, obviously the whole, 2020 brought a lot of vision, but it was also like a pretty profound time for people to figure out like how were they going to share their gifts, and a lot of things went online, and so did we. And that was actually one of my intentions in 2018, was to get something up online just in case, God forbid, getting older, something happens. Hey, I've left my mark. Here it is online, and you could always go back to it and rewatch and re-listen. And I thought that was always one of my goals. But it's been a while. Obviously, it's been over 3 years since we've been back to Breath+Oneness, and the idea of creating an exchange of traveling out of state and all that comes along with that, now that we have families and pets and all of the things, and to be bringing also apprentices and students with us and traveling in a group with trained, kind of professionals to come and share the work that's built so powerfully for us is humbling. But also, when I said that, not to sound ungrateful, it's a huge effort. And so normally we're producing by ourselves or independently a 2-day 14-hour offering is going to be it's going to there's going to be a considerable exchange there. And normally it's going to be um, for a very selected group, like if we were going to Bastyr University or Scripps down in San Diego, or if we were working with veterans, or if we were working with first responders. Um, and in this case, what we're kind of really doing is a homecoming. Um, and we're offering this incredibly deep beautiful compilation because we can afford to be there for 4 days, and because we miss all of you a lot, that we would come and spend a good amount of time going very, very deep into what I've created, a template of the work that you would experience with us over a 24-month period or a 4-year apprenticeship over 2 days, 2 full days. And it's special. And I haven't done anything like this in, probably, like, even when we came and shared last time with Breath+Oneness, we did a little bit of a share, a demo, and then like a day long or something like that. It wasn't as involved as this is. So it's just unique.
It is unique. Yeah. Thank you so much for being willing. I feel like I was hit with spirit, like inspiration. And then I feel like maybe you did too. And together we're in this space of being inspired to bring, and what a lovely thing to be in person, again. And then also there's just something so much more, I feel, impactful on every level. I feel like both have such merit, right? Like the online offerings and being able that it is evergreen and it is so accessible. And there's something so beautiful and important about that. And yet, like, let's never let that somehow keep us out of being together in person. Right. Because it has its own need, right?
So I mean, being in person, I can't even tell you the difference. Obviously, it's wonderful to be having people going through accreditation online, evergreen, but I never touch them. I'm never face to face with them and meeting one another where we're at and being able to spend time together in this way, in this accelerated way, bringing awareness and truth and authenticity and the ability to be with a group of people that you really resonate with, is just so fulfilling. I mean, it's like, 4 days turns into 6 months to a year of feeling completely satiated and clear. And there's nothing better than that.
Yes, I totally agree. I also feel like when you were speaking right there, I had such a deep sense of, it's both this like online in contrast with in person. And I also feel like it's this like individual work, like in contrast as well as in partnership or synergy with our together work, and how both are also so equally important and needed. And yet I feel like so many of us have been doing so much individual or personal work, right? Like our own soul growth and doing all the inner work, especially with just all the last years of being, I think, so isolated. So many of us, the pandemic, and then so many of our social structures got really reimagined. And then I'm so keenly aware that there's this point where you can only do so much work by yourself. You can only be so much in your inner world and cultivating that. And then there's this deep need to bring that with other people, whether that's a couple other people or a larger group of like-minded, like-souled people, where now we're doing it together, right? We're in a space together. And now we're like sharing and we're listening and we're learning, and that cultivation of our group intelligence and the furthering that can now take place because of that we can't access, that I can't access all by myself. I feel like there's something so innately necessary about that as well. Would you agree?
I mean, I'm so with you. And not only that, I work better in groups. So when I'm doing my own self-work, I tend to thrive more in groups. It's tougher to do your sadhana behind closed doors, right? Like how do we show up when we're alone? That's what really matters. But that doesn't take anything away from the impact that's created and the drive that comes through me. Also, when I see people who are willing to be transparent Like a lot of times I feel kind of more withdrawn or internal at the beginning of sitting with a group. And then I hear people sharing these really, really profound realizations or yeah, sometimes even some intimate difficulties or challenges that they're going through. And all of a sudden, I just have this massive inspiration to join in and be part of that. And so there's nothing quite like the group energy, the collective energy. And you know what's also amazing too, and this will be a nice check-in in the collective that we've created. One of the kind of buzzwords that's been going around lately has been community. So maybe everybody's feeling this. There's a chance that we've done so much work individually and we've had so much time internally that now as we go into this winter season, which is obviously considered, kind of more of an internal hibernation period, that we're desiring community now, and that we're feeling like, wow, wouldn't it be nice to, I mean, this is the very extreme of this, but wouldn't it be nice to live on some land with a large group of people who were like-minded and have, a group of kids that could play together regularly and learn together regularly. And again, I know that's kind of the extreme of the conversation that we're having, but that's what's actually been coming up in our family. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm like considering moving in with like community again, developing a community again. But it's definitely a reflection of what you've just shared. And I think that there is a buzz right now going on for some people around finding community and spending more time with community. And this is one of the most elevated and powerful ways to be doing that making that type of connection.
Like within the work that we're going to be doing in the weekend, is that what you're referring to? The time together we're going to spend together? Yeah, it feels like it's just going to be such kind of an intensive and accelerated journey of like bonding and community. And it's like this inner work, but then also the together work that I really have experienced can only really actually happen in our collective, when we're actually together. And then the synergy, the energy, the sparks of likeness, and then the sparks of possible dissonance, but all of that energy creates, to me, I can feel it, all the next layers and levels of openings and possibilities, and that I can't access on my own. I think we're just not even wired that way. I think that we're a tribal species. We're a collective consciousness, right? There's way more a unification that we are than we often are even present to. And I feel like when we get together in groups, we can start to feel it again. And that's also a homecoming too.
Yeah.
That's my sense of it.
Yeah, I think you've hit it right on the head.
Yeah. So I'm so excited. I can't wait to be in this collective energy, group energy, with this really intentional energy that we have both said, and that I feel like you've really gone into. And when I'm reading and feeling into the words that you've written to kind of guide us through the evenings and the weekend, I'm inspired. I'm touched by the topics that you've brought that we're going to go into. It feels like such a profound invitation to go into some really, like, it feels like all the right spaces, and like we go in there inside of ourselves, we go in there together, we come out, there's like this in and this out energy that feels so good. And just looking at the arc of the weekend too. So Thursday night, a smaller evening, more intimate gathering at Breath+Oneness. And what you wrote for that, I'm really curious about. So etheric resonance, progressing between worlds. And I'm really interested to hear if you could speak to that just a little bit. What does that mean to you? Do you have intention there? What is that for you?
Well, the science of the how, what, when, why experience that happens within a lot of these advanced modalities is left to question very often. And that is in part because we are very early on in the exploration or understanding of Eastern philosophy and how those Eastern philosophies that were developed before there was really like a lot of travel going on or language or an educational system that was spread throughout communities where everybody would have access to it. How does that now merge with Western understanding and science? And so that's kind of the left hemisphere piece of this. And we pride ourselves on understanding the physiological, biological components of what people are going to refer to as healing or like spiritual awakening. So if you think about the left foot, we'll just consider that the left hemisphere of the brain, which is the analytical or processing, calculating. Even though we work contralaterally, so that wouldn't be true, but we'll go into that later. That when I talk about merging, the etheric, so the experience that's happening when somebody moves from a baseline of existing within the sympathetic nervous system so that they can get stuff done every day. It's this action is a merging or balancing of a state of receptivity, of being receptive. And most of us don't get that, like at all, with disturbed sleep and again, challenges with inflammation and immunity and many, many different things. We're not, many of us are kind of just missing the mark just a little bit, that there's a fine tuning that can happen. And that in a lot of the Eastern philosophies, which to me represent the right hemisphere, because they're more like energy medicine or energy focused, like our yogic lineage, that what's dictated is that if we can eradicate thought for a time being, don't freak out. I'm not saying, trust me, it's going to come back, right? But for a time being, that we have access to an experience which would dictate that consciousness is non-local. Mm-hmm. That awareness, it doesn't belong to me, it doesn't belong to you, that there is a web or kene, the kene bardo, the Maya, the 3D, whatever you want to call it, that consciousness rides on this web, what Einstein would call the quantum, and that human beings actually have the ability to project their awareness or return to the field free of their physical body. And when somebody has this experience, it is traversing the third dimensional realm and this quantum allness, what we call in I'll be very careful here, but when we call in Eastern philosophy, like almost like the Advaita, this is just the space that is. And now I've gone really far right. So through a chemical biological process, we can have etheric experiences. And the idea of understanding this prior to having the experience is key right now. I'll finish by saying this. There's a theory that's known as gnosis, the Gnostics. And to achieve gnosis, for those of you who are maybe connecting with us right now, look it up. Look up to achieve gnosis. What is that? What is to achieve gnosis? Some believe that it's the purpose of life. And what we're going to be teaming up with Breath+Oneness to offer and to share might just be that for you.
So a little more like nuts and bolts dash, because I loved all of that. And I'm still like progressing between worlds. So worlds, would it be like physical world, like biochemical human body world? Would it be like thought world? And then it's like etheric world, or more this like the space, the spirit space world? Are these the worlds that you're speaking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then
because
the word resonance, because for me, I know I've been using that word a lot more, like finding resonance with people or resonance within myself, right? So that word has been coming up a lot more for me recently, utilizing it to help like in guidance or help make choices, what's resonant, what's not, right? So I'm curious about those two words together, if there's anything else to maybe say about that, like etheric resonance. Like, does that bring anything up for you, putting those two words together?
yeah, now I won't dance around it so much. So the etheric is a very high frequency. The etheric is a very high frequency. Fortunately or unfortunately, we are farthest from the galactic center right now that we are in the cycles of the epochs. And over the next certain period of time, we'll be moving more closely to it. However, the dense physicality of gravity and being in the body are a much lower resonance than is available to us.
Mm-hmm.
The etheric, or the chamber and or vehicle through which energy flows, is as high a resonance as is the energy met in that particular field. Therefore, when one moves from the physical body into that field,
Mm-hmm.
it is now an etheric resonance.
Okay. Okay. So would Thursday evening be then that in our breath session and in being together, that maybe that's one of our together intentions, is that we're going to be able to access that resonance together, the etheric resonance space, and like feel it more within our individuated self body, whatever you want to call it, like that more high energy that you're speaking about. And I'm trying to digest this a little bit more, so that, because I think I understand a lot of this stuff, and even still you're speaking, I'm like, I think I kind of get it. And maybe that's the point, is that maybe we're not supposed to fully get it. We're supposed to come and experience it, which I'm good with that too. And I'm like, okay, so accessing more of the super high feel good energy more now, because being in a human body is super heavy and often doesn't feel very good. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Yes. And, so the thing is, you have to understand, it's not just poetic, it's just unfamiliar. However, after you've embodied that experience, it's not something that you'll ever lose. It's almost like we like to call it, my partners and I, human upgrade 1.0, because it's kind of like you can go through a whole lifetime, or I don't even, if you believe in cycles, you could go through many materializations and never have that experience. And so when you come to that experience, and if you've had it, you'll never forget that. And it's almost like a fine tuning, like the body has actually been recharged, and emotion, past experiences, things that have been suppressed or repressed, tend to kind of get moved out. They call that healing. Sometimes physical injury can be moved out. They call that healing. This is something very, very human, very basic, although I know the language is really far out. I know a lot of people, may even find a little bit of resistance to it. And if you find a resistance to it, then it's really meant for you. Then when we work into resistance, that's where all that heat comes, right? And heat creates growth. Nothing grows in ice, does it? So to have like a frozen mindset around something is, it's not much for being alive and exploring, and you do all things, experience all things, get out there and just eat it up, swallow life whole. And I just
resonate with you. Can I say something really quickly, or do you want to say?
And there's that resonate again, right?
Yeah. And I so resonate too, though, what you're saying about the places of resistance. I feel like I have so learned that like when I'm really feeling that resistance inside, more and more, I'm like, oh, that's exactly the place I need to go. Like and it can feel so challenging. The heat, the tension, the pressure, the feeling of friction, the feeling of that like intense push away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the learning to almost trust that, and then utilize tools like breath, like just like go in like as we can, right? And I'm curious, when you said they call it healing, like, do you not call it healing? What would you call it?
Well, the body heals on its own. So when somebody consciously goes in and begins to amplify vital force or universal current and experiences a rapid realignment or fine-tuning, I tend to want to make it more of an organic, like accepted, like now you have the ability to navigate or have more power to control it. You have choice. And the reason why I don't refer to it so much as healing is because healing suggests very often that there's something broken or that there's something that needs to be fixed. And I don't know if all of my people, like the kind of hustlers and people who are out there making it happen in business, maybe they're not as comfortable with walking into a room and saying like, hey, like I'm here for healing. Like it creates kind of a facade that some people are going to be admitting that they're broken. And that's not true, but we all need this for sure. We all need this because until all human beings have experienced this resonance of etheric or quantum energy, we've got people either residing in the lunar and or solar channel, and primarily it's solar now. Sometimes to the end of physical illness, meaning that they hit the wall and they're exhausted, and now they can no longer find regulation of emotions. They don't even have the tools to begin to start working with emotional intelligence or learn about past behaviors. Like I see a lot of people using the word like narcissism or narcissist, like it's just like a catchprise, like,
it's such a buzzword right now. I'm seeing it constantly.
It's everywhere. Like really, like Narcissus was like a story. It was a fable. Like you can't take human beings and shove a label on them and say, well, it's that behavior. No, sorry. Everybody has elements of those behaviors. depending on the level of wounding that's happening in any moment, that they may be less resourced.
Agree.
They may be less resourced
Yeah.
to know that they're safe first, right? That they're safe, and that there are opportunities for growth within the way that they interact in right relationship, to mend, and not to be creating kind of necessary future conversations around what didn't go right, like to have to mend and mend and mend and mend.
Yes.
There's a different way to go about this, and I think we're getting there.
I agree with you so completely with the whole, it's so interesting that you bring that up, and it's not exactly quote unquote on topic, and yet maybe it is the most on topic in a certain sense. These things that we're coming into, like individually and collectively, where this awareness, like this light is being shined on these particular places. And like, what are we doing other than bringing light, bringing breath, bringing our present awareness to these aspects of self and each other, and our collective awareness that may or may not be working, right? How is it working? How is it not working? How can we look at it? How can we refine? Can we be available for greater understanding and application? All these things. I feel like this is actually so much more of what we are doing in a certain sense, and what the breath can really bring to us in so many ways is this awareness. And I actually love partnering it with even like the buzzword of narcissism right now. And I want to acknowledge that we're coming up on the end of this particular segment. And I love the conversation. Thank you so much for bringing all these things that you've brought today. I actually really look forward to like digging in a little bit more. I really want to go into the weekend, because you have written some absolutely gorgeous chapters for each hour of the weekend, that each one I could honestly see taking a month, taking a few months, like on each little mini chapter. And to imagine that we're going to go through all of those, at least to a little extent, on this weekend, I can only imagine the power that is going to bring for us, and what that's going to bring up in the collective awakening and individual. So I can't wait. I'm so looking forward. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, and look forward to breaking it down more.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Hold on one second.